Now, from WLEX, with coverage you can count on, this is LEX 18 News at 6.
Among the many problems caused by this paralyzing ice storm that hit central Kentucky, a fire in Woodford County caused when the roof collapsed under the weight of the ice. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin Christopher.
And I'm Nancy Cox. Thank you for joining us. Our extended coverage here on LEX 18 News. Thousands upon thousands of Kentuckians still continue to struggle and battle the elements, many still without power and heat in their homes. All of us hoping to get back to normal soon. For others, the flooding is the problem. Let's check out the current situation now with our Chief Meteorologist Bill Meck in the LEX 18 Storm Tracker Weather Center.
And we've been compiling the data and relaying it to you verbally here, which of course is one way to get information across, but it's much better if you can see the actual information and kind of start putting things together. And that's what we've been able to do, is get some graphics here together for you, some pictures, to give you an idea of what to expect if you live along the river systems. Right now we're focusing on the Kentucky River. And for the Kentucky River at Jackson, 37.3 feet. The flood crest happened today. It is the worst since 1984. It will fall below flood stage tomorrow morning. At Boonville, 38.6 feet, also the worst since 1984. It will also fall below flood stage, but not until tomorrow afternoon. Heidelberg, worst since 1984. It'll go below flood stage Wednesday morning. As we go further downstream to the Red River at Clay City, where the two come together, the Red River and the Kentucky, you're looking at 24 feet. That's the worst flooding since 1979. That'll fall below flood stage Tuesday morning. Kentucky River Ford Lock, that'll be around the Boonesboro area. Crest 33 feet Tuesday afternoon. That'll do some minor flooding on Highway 227. Had a lot of calls from people who live in the High Bridge area. This is the updated information. I do not know if it takes into account the release of water from the Dix Dam. 36 feet is the forecasted flood stage there. That'll occur Wednesday morning. At that point, it floods the village of High Bridge. That occurs at around 35 feet, so you can see about a foot above. And keep going downstream there. Frankfort, crest 35 feet. That will come in on Thursday morning. So again, that's the flood information. You look at the big picture here, you see snow that passed through the area today. That is now all exiting off to the east. That's also feeding the big East Coast storm that you've been hearing so much about, with snowfall amounts 1 to 3 feet of snow for some of those folks there. For us, our weather is calming down, at least temporarily, and that is certainly good news. We need a breather here. We'll see temperatures tomorrow go above freezing. We have a little rain coming in for the middle of the week. We'll talk about the end of the week in just a few minutes. So that's the story from the LEX 18 Storm Tracker Weather Center.
All right, Bill Meck, 46 counties have declared a state of emergency, and an army of extra utility workers have come in trying to relieve the exhausted crews that are working as fast as they can to get your power back on.
Still tens of thousands of people in Lexington and surrounding counties have no power. Shelters are set up all over the area. We'll bring you that information a little bit later, but ice is not the only problem. The flooding in eastern Kentucky has forced Kentucky utilities to open some floodgates, causing more flooding problems downstream, particularly right now in the community of Clifton in Woodford County, and that's where we join Molly Grantham live. Molly, what's happening there?
Well, Nancy, you said floodgates. I just talked to emergency management. They said they've opened up 4 floodgates. I talked to 2 different people down here that lived in 2 different homes, both of whom have evacuated, and they said federal emergency management people came by, knocked on their doors, and said it could get up to the 2nd story level of their homes. Now, where I am right now, it's about 35 feet. That's where the marker over there says, and I've talked to people that have lived here for decades. It said the highest they've ever seen it is 42 feet. As Bill Meck mentioned, though, the National Weather Service says that Clifton should be at the highest rate. The Kentucky River should be at the highest flood point it's been since 1984, which some people that live around here and are used to it and don't leave very easily find very hard to believe. One of those people is Kimball. Kimball, you're here, and you said you lived here since the 70s.
Yes.
Why are you still here?
It's just part of the program. You know, we just hang out, check things out, make sure everything's okay, and be there for our neighbors and make sure that everybody's safe.
Now, right here, I know we've been down this road before, and it dips down. The water's already over it. What about the people on the other side? How high is that water? Can they get out?
They can get out. I mean, there's rowboats and stuff of that nature that you know, and I've got a radio with my sister who lives across the ravine there. So, you know, we got communication, thank God. So we should be all right. You know, we're just going to have to take it in God's speed.
Have you been on that side, and what does it look like?
It's just, it's nasty. You know, we're just going to have to be there for each other, like I said, and watch the water, monitor the level, and make sure that it doesn't get crazy. If it does, then we're just going to have to be there for our neighbors, like I said, and help them.
Everyone here is helping everybody else. I know your sister had said 4 inches the river raised too in the past 3.5 hours. That's our report here from Clifton. A lot of flooding, a lot of voluntary evacuees, and a lot of people that also say they're going to stay. Back to you.
Molly Grantham, thank you. And earlier yesterday in Woodford County, the Falling Springs Center opened up as a shelter for people without power. This will no doubt cause more need. At this point, we are aware that that shelter is still open, and we will update you if other facilities open up there as well.
More problems in Woodford County. We showed you right at the top of the newscast those pictures from a fire that was caused at a business there when ice that had built up on the roof collapsed it. And for more about that, let's check in with Leigh Searcy live in Woodford County. Leigh.
Well, Kevin, this was a very tense situation because of how close this fire was to a lot of these businesses you see here along Lexington Street in Versailles, one business in particular. You could see the smoke for miles as it rolled out of an old auto garage, a fire believed to have started when mounting snow and ice became too heavy for the building.
The roof had caved in and the building burst into flames.
Inside the business called Carts and Carts, chemicals and racing fuel. Extinguishing the fire wasn't easy. Not all the water was working.
We had one hydrant that was frozen solid due to the weather, so we had to go farther down the street, and it took us a little longer to get water than we'd hoped for, but we did get the water we needed.
Another worry? A gas company a few doors down from the fire.
That was a concern that someone told me about, that there was a lot of chemicals or fuel that could be exploding, and we also have a propane gas company here also with their main fields back there. So it was kind of scary.
And Carts and Carts is a total loss tonight, but I can tell you that a lot of the business owners I've talked to, they tell me that the Versailles Fire Department did an excellent job responding to this fire under these kinds of weather conditions, and they were able to contain the fire very quickly. They definitely put out what could have been a very serious situation. We're covering the news live in Woodford County. Back to you in the studio.
Boy, so many other things to worry about. Thanks, Leigh. Leigh just pointed out there, frozen hydrants, another problem caused by the storm, and the proximity in this case to some propane tanks. It doesn't get any better the deeper into the day we go.
No, the situation is still tense here in Lexington as well. The police chief earlier said their department is making 5 times their normal runs. It's just taxing every agency. For more on what the situation is like here in Lexington, let's check in live now with Richard Lom.
Nancy, the situation is ice, and what will that mean as the temperatures fall tonight and as the sun goes down? Will they be dealing with more downed trees, possibly more downed lines? Some neighbors are cleaning up, some are not, and some just don't know what to do. Here's what they had to say. The ice storm may be over, but the problems for many are just beginning. Down lines continue to make neighborhoods impassable, and the threat of ice-laden trees causing further damage is still a big worry.
Our neighbor has a very, very large tree in the backyard, and a third of it fell into our backyard. So that was a concern of making sure that there were no holes in my roof.
Melissa King says part of this big tree in her yard fell just a few hours ago. She and her neighbors would like to begin the cleanup process, but hesitate to do so.
I'm just waiting for the weather to calm down a little and give us some opportunity to get in here and cut it up and let the insurance company take a look at it, see what happens.
Only warmer temperatures, say neighbors, can offer any real relief. Well, some neighbors are not waiting for those warmer temperatures. In fact, we were telling you a few minutes ago, one fella down the street was actually out with his chainsaw. He joins us now. Keith Saylor, you got the chainsaw out. You're not waiting for those warmer temperatures. You're already out chopping it up, doing what you got to do. Why so soon?
Just might as well get ready and start working.
That's all you could do. Is it almost like an self-empowerment kind of thing? You're just not going to wait for Mother Nature. You got to get out there?
Sure.
Hey, Keith, thank you very much. That's it for us. We're live in Lexington from the LEX-18 Mobile Newsroom. Back to you guys.
All right, Richard Lom, thank you very much. And of course, we told you earlier about 8 shelters are open here in Lexington. We'll have that information for you a little bit later. And some of our producers just called around to 33 Lexington hotels, and all of them are full. But remember, things are different to the south, so you may get lucky over in Madison County or in Danville. It's worth a call. Certainly, if a shelter is not your choice tonight, you might have some luck in another county.
You may very well have to leave town if you need a place to stay. Meanwhile, it's not ice but floodwaters that are causing all the problems down in eastern Kentucky.
In Knox County, dozens of roads are closed, communities cut off by high water. LEX-18's Leigh Kaplan spent the day in Knox County. She has this report.
This is one of the hardest hit areas of Knox County, Stinking Creek. The flooding here has been so bad, many families are stranded. This is the only way in and out of the Stinking Creek area. An unpaved, muddy, dangerous drive over the mountain, the main highway covered in water.
We're on the Hinkle Branch Road, and the only way out of Stinking Creek, unless you got a boat, is this way right here.
Bob and Beverly Burnett are stuck. Floodwater knocked down the bridge to their house Saturday night.
It just scared me to death because there's no way to get out of here.
We're stranded on
We're
this side.
stranded. We had our cattle over here and no feed on this side. And he had to carry a big sack full of corn back around this mountain.
Today, the job's a bit easier. The water's down enough that Bob can cross his fallen bridge on foot, and a kind neighbor loaned the Burnetts a pickup truck.
Both our vehicles are over here. Eventually, we're going to have to get out of here some way or another.
I think I'd rather have that ice storm than be stranded like this.
Bob has a different perspective.
For me, this is just me for this bridge. This is one family. Where it's ice storms, hundreds of them. There are a lot of people hurting there. So this can be fixed.
The floodwaters are starting to recede, but people here say it could be weeks before life is finally back to normal. Covering the news in Knox County, Leigh Kaplan, LEX-18 News.
Thank you, Lisa. In like 35 other Kentucky counties and dozens of municipalities across the state, Knox County has declared a state of emergency, and they're hoping for some federal money to help with the cleanup efforts.
Coming up next, we'll take a look at the damage around Lexington from the air in the LEX-18 News Chopper. That's right after this.
We showed you the view on the streets of Lexington. Now, Wes Hyland in the LEX-18 News Chopper shows you the view from the sky.
From in the air, you can really see the damage up here. Trees on houses, all types of things. Roads still covered with ice. Trees still across roads really right now, and roads you can't even get by or have a very hard time getting by. As we said, the main areas that are having problems here, Woodland Park, also over by UK University Drive in that area. Also the Chevy Chase area of Lexington also badly hit. Some of those old houses even have trees on top of them there. A lot of problems with those. A lot of electricity problems. People, you can tell, still without power. About 60,000 in Lexington right now. Crews trying to get things back up. From the air, basically looks like an ice skating rink out here. It looks like you could just get out there and skate around Lexington really if you wanted to. Some of the roads still fairly clear. You can see the salt crews have been able to get to many of them and get them cleared away, but the ice, you can even tell from up here, has just blanketed all of Lexington right now, and people trying to get things back to normal. Even from the air, you can tell folks out trying to get limbs picked up and trying to get everything going again. We are covering the news live from the air in the LEX-18 News Chopper. Back to you.
All right, Wes Hyland in the LEX-18 News Chopper. Thank you.
Where it didn't freeze, it came down in sheets of rain. Heavy rainfall in Powell County sent the Red River and tributaries over its banks. Flooding a big problem right now in Clay City, closing roads and leaving parts of a lot of homes submerged. LEX-18 storm tracker Karl Bierach shows us some of the hardest hit neighborhoods.
Teresa Burcham can hardly believe her eyes. Her home in Clay City is nearly 2 feet underwater. For the last 24 hours, she has watched the water from the Red River slowly but surely surround her home.
I put all my pictures and valuables and stuff up high, hoping it would keep them out of the water, and I don't know if that worked now. I've not been in there. I don't know what it's done.
Teresa isn't alone. Many of her neighbors have the same problem. Take, for example, this home. Since 4 this morning, Jim Benechik has watched his basement fill up with over a foot of water.
It just kept pouring and pouring and never did stop. And you can't do nothing once it starts because it's going to keep on coming and coming. You just can't do nothing with the water.
Despite all the damage and the work that it will take to get these homes dry, residents keep a positive attitude.
I'm a bit nervous because I look at it this way. If it takes it out, it takes it out. But I got my kids. That's more important because material things don't mean nothing to me. It's our health and make sure everybody else is okay. That's what really matters.
Covering the news in Powell County, Karl Bierach, LEX 18 News.
And a few folks there had to be rescued by boat because the water had surrounded their homes.
So what's next? Well, we'll find out with the LEX 18 Storm Tracker forecast right after you watch this.
Over 100 intersections are still dark around town. On the north side between Bryan and Palumbo. On the south side, Harrodsburg Road's a real problem. Police are directing traffic, but they can't at all of them. Treat them like four-way stops. Now back to you.
I don't know how many of you have ever seen the damage that a large tornado can do after it goes through, but what you will see in the aftermath, the big trees don't get completely uprooted, but essentially the tops of them get sheared off. That's more or less what it looks like out there now, except that it's not a half-mile or a mile-wide path. I mean, this is covering 10 and 20, 30 miles wide of these large trees that have just been sheared off. This is something that's going to scar our area, unfortunately, for a very long time. Let's go ahead and show you what it looks like first with the LEX 18 Storm Tracker Dual Doppler, and we'll try and get everything cleared up here for you. What we're looking at is the last of a little bit of light snow that exited out of eastern Kentucky. The good news as we speak, there are absolutely no winter weather advisories of any kind around. So we're getting a chance in that respect to start to clear things up. Now there are still a couple of little patches of freezing drizzle or a couple of snow flurries that are out there, but they're too light to be seen by radar. And as we were talking about, the changeover line was somewhere around to the north of Springfield in Washington County. We had reports on both sides of Danville. One side had rain, the other side had some ice. You continue through Garrett County, through about Richmond or so. Had a call from a viewer said that there was no ice in Estill County. Again, this was a rough line, so take that line a couple of miles up into Clark County to be a little more precise, and thank you for that added information. And then it continues on to the east out toward Moorhead. Flooding, of course, is also a big problem. Kentucky River at Jackson, 37.3 feet. This is the worst flood since 1984. What we're also seeing there is that it'll fall below flood stage Tuesday morning. As you look to Boonville, also the worst flood since 1984, 38.6 feet. Heidelberg, it'll fall below flood stage Wednesday morning, but right now at 24 feet cresting, worst also since 1984. In Clay City, the Red River is the worst flood since 1979, and that, by the way, was the worst flood ever on the Red River. So again, this is of almost historic proportions. It'll drop below flood stage Tuesday afternoon. At Ford Lock, Boonesboro area, crest at 33 feet tomorrow afternoon. That'll do some flooding on Highway 227. And High Bridge should crest at around 36 feet Wednesday morning. That number may still be revised. That'll flood the village of High Bridge. So again, that's what we're looking at there, and upstream at Frankfort, 35 feet, and that'll be Thursday morning. Well, let's say goodbye to the last of this little snowstorm. Now, this one is actually feeding energy into the big snowstorm that is dumping snow on the order of feet in parts of the mid-Atlantic states, but that storm is now departing. In its wake, we will have high pressure building in tomorrow. We may have a little snow flurry or a freezing drizzle patch tomorrow morning. Later in the day, though, the sun does come out. Then we wait for the next system, and now it's a timing pattern. You got moisture here. You got another cold front coming at us. Does the moisture get here when the cold air is in place? If that happens, it could be freezing drizzle. At this point, I think it's going to be just rain. Temperatures now are running in the mid-20s. We dropped to 22 tonight, a little patchy freezing drizzle or a snow flurry possible. Tomorrow it's milder and 42. Your 5-day, we actually should hit the 50s this week, Thursday and Friday, before the next winter weather maker on Saturday. More LEX 18 news right after this.
We've got something True Blue fans can smile about. This week's Associated Press Top 25 college basketball poll is out, and UK is finally ahead of Rick Pitino and his Louisville Cardinals. That's right. So it's got Cats and the Cats atop this week's poll. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. The Arizona Wildcats are number one again, picking up 59 first-place votes. Kentucky, the only other team to pick up first-place votes. The Cats got 13. Then it's Texas moving up 3 spots. Louisville drops to 4, and Oklahoma rounds out the top 5. Kansas up 4 spots. Florida drops 3. Duke, Pitt, and Wake Forest round out the top 10. Other teams in the SEC in the poll, Mississippi State, who visits Rupp on Sunday, they're at 19, and Georgia is at number 22. That's it for sports. We'll be back with more news right after this.
Join America's largest